Welcome back. This is the 52 Weeks to Wealth Principle 34, which, by the way, is one of those principles that was two principles. When I started doing all of this, I mapped out over 100 principles and then had to consolidate them down so they'd fit within a 52-week time frame. Hands to the camera if you know there's only 52 weeks in a year, so you can't work on more weeks than that. Otherwise, it would take 2 years. So we consolidated some of them. Wealth Principle 34 is accept what can't be changed and create an advantage. The reason this principle is so powerful is because we're in the middle of a recession literally right now. Now, of course, this principle has always been a valuable tool for real estate investors because we're always accepting that there's a challenge. We either don't have the money, we don't have a deal, or we don't have the labor to get a job done, and we're looking to solve that for ourselves and then solve for somebody else. In real estate, you have two choices. One, make money, or two, let somebody else make money. Hence, can't feel there's money in this business. That's what we do here. There's money everywhere. So if you choose to take the calling, you choose to rise up, then you must accept that there are going to be problems. Then you must be able to find a creative way to create an advantage for that person who's got the problem, whether it's the seller that you're purchasing the property from or the investor who's putting their capital with you, because their big problem is, I don't know where else to put my capital that I trust that would make a good return on investment. So we're going to dive deep into Wealth Principle 34 today, going into two sections. We're going to first start with how to identify a challenge and then accept that there is a challenge, accept that there is a problem. It may be in your life, maybe in the market, it may be in your sellers or your clients' lives, but you must be able to accept it and present it to them. And then on the other side, how to create that advantage. We're going to go through 4 steps on how to actually create an advantage in real estate, just specific to real estate. Hands can if you're a real estate investor. All right. Hands can if you work with real estate investors. Excellent. And we'll do 2 more questions that are my favorite to ask. Who here wants to make more money this year? Excellent. Who wants to do it with less work? Awesome. Excellent. That is alchemy. When people say you can't make more money with less work, clearly they haven't seen how money is actually made. There's a great video on TikTok running around right now where this guy is biking, right? He's biking and the other guys are biking, and then he jumps up on his seat, lays out flat, and it's on a downhill, and he starts passing the other guys and gals who are pedaling. Hence, can't you recognize sometimes going in a direction with momentum and getting streamlined will actually allow you less effort and more speed at the same time. So as we're going through Wealth Principle 34, I'm going to share some slides that I put together literally 10 minutes ago because I care about you and I know most of you are very visual. So as we're putting those slides up, if you want access to them, you might want to just take a screenshot. There is a recording. This is going out on Facebook as well. Otherwise, these slides are probably not going to come out for like another year or 2 before I finally make them available to everybody. Hence, I got other things I'm working on. And let's be real, nobody really wants the slides. You just want the information. So let's dive in. Hands to the camera if you see it on your screen. Awesome. So Wealth Principle 34 is what? Let's see. Accept what can't be changed and create an advantage. There are 4 steps to accepting change, and we're going to dive into those really quick. If you got a pen and paper, it's a good time to write these things down. The first step is identifying the silver lining. Now, I know that sounds obvious, and I also know it sounds hard to do. Who here has been in a situation where it was really hard to identify the silver lining? You're just so caught up in the emotions that it's like, man, like this is literally the worst thing in my life. And if you can go back to that state just for a second, think of an emotion where it was just like, oh my God, this is terrible. And when you're in front of a client who's also got pain, by the way, every client has pain. That's why we're there solving problems. If you can put yourself into that emotional state, slow down, feel the emotion, speak a little slower, you're going to be able to build a deeper relationship with them, 1. And then 2, you have to start there in order to identify silver lining. You can't just be the person to be like, yeah, but it's all good, because that breaks rapport very quickly. So when you're identifying silver lining, like for example, this person has been in their house for, let's say, 30 years. Their husband passed away. The house is in disrepair. The roof is leaking. The bank is foreclosing because they're only making $700 a month and their mortgage payment is $800 a month. So they don't even have money for food. Then they're in a situation that seems impossible. So if you can put yourself there, you might want to point out after putting yourself there and saying, I can agree. I understand this is a pretty bad situation. Wow, this is not good. So what would it be like if you didn't have to pay for this mortgage anymore? If this house was no longer a challenge for you. If you had now the 150 or the $200,000 in your pocket today, how long would that money last you, especially if you're able to put it into an account that maybe paid you every single month, or something that paid you 8% interest? By the way, who knows, you could raise capital from your sellers. Absolutely. So 8% interest would be an extra $16,000 a year on a $200,000 property loan. So like, would that be helpful to you? And then you'd be able to get assistance, maybe Section 8, because your income is low enough to apply for a Section 8 and get housing vouchers. Like, would that make your life significantly better? And usually the answer is yes. That's the silver lining. Now, like I said, you don't point over the head like, yeah, it's got to be so much better. You've got to ask those questions, wean them into the understanding. So number one is identify the silver lining. The second step is making sure that you focus on what you can control. There are some things you cannot control, like the economy. Like, that thing's just going to keep tumbling along the way it is. And hopefully it evens out eventually. But in order for it to be a healthy bump, this kind of has to go for a little while, right? The stock market, the crypto markets, and eventually the real estate market are going to have to stretch at a lower point for a little while in order for it to be a healthy change in the market. When you go straight up for too long, eventually you get these bumps. If you go long enough, you can get a nice long run. But if you drop fast and drop back up, things get out of control and people's lives really get shattered. So having a nice little lull, believe it or not, is a good thing. But we can't control that. What we can control is how many hours we put in a day to solving other people's problems. What we can control is making decisions instead of saying, I'll figure it out later. By the way, Dr. Terry Wager is famous for saying you can't figure anything out, because anything you try to figure out is just using information you already have. And so a decision could have already been come to. We've heard this before. Stop taking your own bad advice. Quit taking your own bad advice. It's the truth, because there is no figuring out. There is only decision. Now, most people, not everybody in this group, but most people will allow decision after decision after decision to build up, build up, build up. Now they got a dozen decisions. Now the mind, they're walking around saying, man, I got so much on my plate. And when they sit into a mentorship call with me or a coaching call, I'm asking them, okay, what do you got on your plate? What are the big challenges? And it's really like one or two things, but they've got all these little decisions that they haven't made that are piling up on top of them, making them emotionally incapable of making a decision. Has anybody experienced analysis paralysis before? Too many thoughts in your head. You're walking around with all this heavy baggage. Nobody can see it except for you, but your eyes are downcast and you're focused on things that could have easily been controlled. Decisions within your own life, what to wear, what to say in the morning. I don't have to think about it. I grab the same shirt every single day. I mean, it's been washed, right? Who else has one of these shirts? There you go, Julie. So if you ever check out my house, there's like 20 of these shirts sitting in my closet at any given time. And if I run out of these, I got names on deeds. I got the Pointers Not to Works to generate income. I don't have to make decisions. And that keeps me in control of the other decisions that do have to be made. One powerful decision you can make is show up at an appointment, make a phone call, put in an offer. These are powerful decisions that can really have an impact on your life. Reach out to an investor, say yes to taking their money, put money to work. These are decisions that you can control. The economy can't stop you. We're catching this? You can't control the rain, but you can control how much you make it rain. Awesome. And step three is pursuing community. When times are tough, when things get rough, you've got to find a place where things are calmer, where things aren't as chaotic as your mind. If you've been in a situation where you're feeling down or depressed, the first instinct is to retreat, to hide, to get away from other people. And Scary, if you've experienced that before, like, I'm not at my best, I'm not going to go out there with everybody else. That is exactly when we dive into relationships. That's exactly when we as a human society need other people who are in the right state. Now, it is not the place to go to, the Maury Povich show. That would be a terrible. And by the way, this is what motivated sellers do. They fall into a rut. They're staying inside themselves. They're avoiding other people. And then they start watching negativity on the TV. They start watching the news, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. But when you extrovert, when you pursue community, by the way, this is coming from a self-proclaimed introvert. We understand that, right? I'm preaching against something that is naturally not my instinct, because even today, I woke up this morning, I told Doreen, I was like, man, like, I don't want to fucking do it. I was like, I don't know. I don't got any motivation to get up, and I don't got motivation to do this call. And like she's like, what's wrong? And I was like, I can't tell you what's wrong, because if I told you what's wrong, I'd be putting that negativity on you. So I'm just going to stop the conversation. I'm going to figure it out, and then I'm jump on the call. But as soon as I got on the call, I saw all your bright faces. I said, fuck, that's why I do it. Oh yeah, that's right. That's what we're here for. We're here to grow. We're here to expand. We're here to get to the next level. Hence, if you're feeling that energy right now, it's like, dude, we're doing something here. So pursuit of community is how you get people to be in a healthier state of mind, especially when it's us, when it's ourselves, getting out in front of other people who have similar goals, similar ambitions, similar things that they want to do. If you find that your person you're talking to doesn't have community, there's a good chance they won't stick with whatever decision you're making with them. So it's very important for, if you're raising capital for real estate investors, you're talking to investors, it's very important to get them together into a state where they're all excited about investing. They're all excited about the capital that they're getting from you. It's wonderful to have those one-on-one conversations. I do think there's time for that, but it's far more leverageable if you can get all your investors into a room and then talk about the great deal that you're doing. Even if the deal is going sideways, as long as you can put some silver lining on it, right? You can still bring that group into a positive state. Like, man, like, I'm so glad I'm invested with this person because she's bringing these deals to me, and they're making it, even though things went bad, this person knows how to solve the problems, right? Like, people are invested in Melanie. It's like, okay, like, Melanie knows what she's doing. She's getting the deal going. She's turning it around. So pursue community, create community. If you don't have one, if it isn't there, create something. Number 4. Well, it says 3 here, but it is 4. Improve conditions for others. Improve conditions for others. For some reason, when things are not working in an economy, there is more money to be made for the people who are suffering the most. So as we're looking at, challenges within this recession, there are going to be people who are literally ready and willing to hand their properties off because their finances have been dramatically reduced. So those components, if you're seeking constantly to improve their conditions, and the worse the condition, the more you're looking to improve it, the more money you're going to make. Hands to the camera if you catch this. This is another way of saying add value to others. I just hate the add value thing because it's been used so many times. People forgot what it actually means. And it means improve conditions for others. Make somebody's life better because you showed up, because you're there. You follow these 4 steps, and you're going to start taking advantage of challenges. You're going to start looking at challenges saying, man, there's money to be made here. Now, of course, don't say that in front of somebody who's having the challenge. We understand that people don't like that. So I say it all the time because I'm super excited about everything that we do, and challenges have created millionaires for me. So for me, I see a recession, I think, my God, this is the best time of my life. Next, we're going to jump into accepting change. There are 4 steps to accepting change. Hold on, not accepting change. Well, this shouldn't say accepting change. This should say taking advantage. Hence, if you know I make mistakes. All right. So this slide should say taking advantage. Step 1 is study your competition. So as real estate investors, we have competitors all around us. Now, I don't like the word competition, but it does work because that's what you're thinking as soon as you think, okay, somebody else does investing, somebody else is a realtor, somebody else does capital raising, the thing that I do. Study what they do. Study their marketing message. How are they reaching out to people? How are people being drawn into their funnel? This week, I got in trouble for copying somebody's website. Hence, if people don't like it when you copy their website. Yeah, whatever. I apologize. Send the blessings. But here's the deal. It was an amazing website. It clearly worked. It was so easy to read. It was clear. Like, everything made sense. So I told the team, I was like, I want it to look like that. The team did too good. It looked just like that. So they've changed the branding, the colors, the copy, all of that stuff. But the idea behind it was, my competition is funneling people through. I don't actually directly compete with this person. This is a wholesaler. I don't teach wholesaling, but it was enough for them to get pissed off. Hence, you got to piss some people off in the game. It's okay. Like, there are so many people out there who are like, always work with the best, 100 millionaires. Like, they take the stuff that they've learned from me and they're out there using it. I don't care. I don't lose sleep over it. I think of that as a compliment. Others may see, and I've been messaged by people who are like, oh my God, this person's doing your thing. I'm like, dude, like, as long as you thought of me when they were doing my thing, we're winning here. We're still making progress. So study the competition. How is their marketing messaging working? What are they saying to their clients? What are the things their clients are saying about them afterwards? If they've had a really good experience, why is it that they liked working with that investor, and what could I do? What could I change in my model? Sometimes investing in other people's deals has given me more information about how I can be a better operator in transactions. In fact, that's one of the reasons we invest in other people's projects, because I'm learning what is it that people liked about this syndicator, this particular syndicator, and their documents, how they reach out to people. It's something you can learn from your competition. There is really no competition. They're just people you're learning from or working with. Step two. Step two is, and this is slightly different. Learn how your competition structures their deals. Learn how the competition structures their deals. My mentor used to say to me, it's like, Walter, why do you train your competition? I'd be like, bro, like, I'm not training my competition. I'm training my replacements because I don't plan on doing this forever. So at some point, somebody's gonna have to come in and do all of these things. And I want them to be well trained to do the right work. And here's the other thing. I can't buy all the real estate, right? Who here has ever said, I want to buy everything? I'll buy it all. We've all said it at some point, right? Every real estate investor, I'm going to buy everything in the city. It's not possible. You can't actually buy everything. And when I realized that I couldn't buy it all and I didn't want to buy it all, I really just wanted to do well for myself and take care of my tenants and serve the people I was buying from, the landlords I was buying from, and just kind of have fun and do what I was doing. It made it a lot easier to teach others and train others. But a side effect of training others was that I now had partners, the potential for partners. I had now deals coming my way from people who couldn't take down a deal in their normal model, but worked from my model. The way a competitor structures deals is how I've learned how to do subject to seller financing, listen to Bigger Pockets, listening to my mentors. In fact, I never considered buying an LLC from another investor until my mentor said, this is how I purchased this property. And Karen, if you know, there's a lot of ways to buy property that you don't know until you learn how people are structuring deals. Another one is, I wish I could think of his name to give him credit, but he said, I will, if I can't sell your house, I'll buy your house. Who's heard marketing like this before? If I can't sell your house, I'll buy it. And then underneath says, we got to agree to the price, mutually both agree to the price. But that marketing message got so many people through his front door, it made me think I should start saying that. Realtors, if you can't sell their property for the right price, you'll buy the house. Just use that marketing. It works. Just make sure you got a little line underneath that says you got to agree to the same price. So study what your competitors are doing to structure deals. Number 3, your marketing should never stop, ever. We're constantly marketing. We're constantly reaching out to new houses. We're constantly reaching out to new wholesalers, new realtors. We're constantly reminding them, follow-up messages. That's what Alchemist Connect is all about, that constant reminder, constant marketing, new messages going out, new phone numbers being added, new stories being told, new voicemails being dropped. Because if I stopped, I might run out of deals one day. And that is the most dangerous thing that could ever happen to a real estate investor. Has anybody ever run out of deals before? And realized, oh my God, my marketing, why did I ever stop this? Because it takes 2-3 months to ramp up sometimes. When you're in a market and things are going smoothly, it's so tempting to sometimes just pull the plug on the marketing because you got too many deals. Has anybody ever done this? Too many deals come through, you're just like, oh my God, back it off. I must be the only one. So it happens. And I don't want you to ever let that happen. Keep the marketing running at all times. In fact, we get asked, how do you keep an eye on the market? How do you know what's going on? Why haven't you bought something, or are you buying something? The answer is always yes. We're always marketing. We're always asking for more deals. We're always looking for more real estate to buy. If you don't see me buying, it's just because I haven't found a deal that works the way I want it to work. But the marketing never turns off. We're still wholesaling, or we're still listing properties. We're still passing the deals off to other people. But when it comes down to, like, should I stop marketing? The answer is always no. Keep going, especially in a time like this. In a moment of recession, you're going to see that deals for a while won't make sense. In fact, a couple of our clients are in it with us, and we're marketing, we're pushing hard, and we're getting these mediocre deals. They're not, home runs. We got a couple good ones. We've negotiated seller financing and not bringing any money to the table. But the home runs are going to be further and far between as the interest rates of the Fed rise. This is the time to still be marketing, because when things turn and sellers' prices adjust, the people who've been marketing for the last 3 months, 6 months are the ones that are going to be doing work with people. The ones who just start, who people have never heard of before, never talked to before, the deals aren't going to go to those people. Hands can't recognize it goes to the person they have the deepest relationship with, the longest knowledge, the most amount of time. Be marketing now for deals that may happen 3 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now. Some of the best deals we've done were year-long deals. In fact, one deal that we almost didn't do, but it was one of our best deals that we ever put under agreement. We were purchasing for $500,000 that would have been worth $8 million when fully finished. We're talking about a $3 to $4 million profit after the renovations were done. That was from a 3-year relationship, from marketing and continuing that relationship and keeping going. Never, ever turn off your marketing. Step 4 for creating an advantage in real estate, build your foundation. Continue to build, continue to refocus. This is something my mentor has been focusing really hard on these last 2 years. He said, man, stabilize, reinvest, fix the tenants, fix the units, do an attic, do a basement, maybe charge for parking spaces now. Getting back into the firm base of deepening his relationships. This is what he's been focusing on the last 2 years. He said, deepening relationships, going out, reaching out, making sure people know who I am, making sure I've got goodwill. He said, I'm in a very good position, so I'm just putting goodwill out there. So when it is time to go in, operate again in a big way, all the deals start flowing. I want to make sure the banks love me. I want to make sure the people who sell me properties love me. I want to make sure my tenants love me, because those are the ones paying for all the bills right now. And I want to make sure that I have a good reputation when I am taking on new tenants. Hence, if you recognize you got to build the foundation all the time, constantly repairing, constantly fixing it. Because if you build a foundation that is flimsy in real estate, you build it on sand, as you start growing, it puts more pressure on the bottom, this thing will fall apart like a house of cards. Building that foundation now during a recession is the best time to do it, because once things get busy, you're not going to have time to do this. You don't have time to go back and check your systems. You don't have time. You don't want to switch property management software in the middle of a busy acquisition cycle. And if you can imagine why, right? Moving 50 tenants over, 100 tenants over in the middle of acquiring 50 new tenants with a new system, your property manager will kill you and you might lose money. Money might slip through the cracks. Opportunities might get lost. Tenants might get forgotten. Rent may not get collected, and then evictions may be slowed down. There's a lot of things that can go wrong if you don't have a very solid, firm foundation, which is why it's important to pick your software early on. It's important to pick software, learn it, make sure the software can scale with you. When I started investing, I got very lucky with one software, but I did terrible in my CRM software. I just jumped from CRM to CRM, and I had a hard time with ever, keeping my systems together, because every time I jumped into CRM, I had to write new scripts, I had to write new text, I had to write new workflows, I had to write new emails. But one system I did very well with early on was Buildium. I had 3 units. I put in this big software that could go up to 100 units, because I could go up to hundreds of units, because I was thinking long term. I was like, I don't ever want to have to shift this. And fortunately, after years, I still haven't had to shift it. We still use Buildium. And Scanf recognize that saved me thousands, tens of thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of hours, not having to stress or worry about things. So as you're going forward through these next, few months, through this next year, as we're getting closer to the summit, I want you keeping in mind that this challenge that the world is facing, these inflation components, these interest rate components, these inflated prices, the fact that sellers still aren't letting go of their properties, there's a lot of challenge in the marketplace that is actually opportunity. We have noticed that the subject to conversation is happening way more often now. We've noticed that the seller financing conversation is happening way more often now, and that these investors, these owners, are extremely open to having these conversations. Thankfully, interest rates are higher. That means when you talk to a motivated seller, they're like, you know what, 6% interest sounds reasonable. Sounds like something I can make money off, because they're paying in other places. And when you have to talk to a seller and they say, see, the mortgage is going to be 5 or 6%, they're like, wow, mine's in a 2% or 3%. Maybe you would be advantaged by taking over my existing mortgage. Hands to the camera if you're catching this. We're getting into a sweet spot in real estate where these opportunities weren't so strong a few years ago, but coming into this area, you're going to have a lot more options for creative financing, which is what we're going to be talking a lot about at the 100 Millionaire Summit. In fact, we've got a guest speaker coming on pretty soon. Who's heard of Sam Prim? Just make sure you know who Sam Faster Freedom is. Yeah, his claim to fame is that he owns over $40 million worth of real estate. and he owns like 175 houses. He'll be talking about that in a little bit. Who'd be interested in meeting him today before we get to the summit? Awesome. Excellent. Before we jump into that, Mike Shine, the keeper of the books, the holistic attorney, what is the book of the week?
Thanks, Walter. Hello, everybody. It's Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. Doreena's holding it up. We could actually have Dorina do the review. According to Walter, she's got so many notes on this. This could be the most important book that we pick in the 52 weeks, especially if you're a certain type of person who falls into like analysis paralysis or doesn't leap. This book is just chock full of advice on how to negotiate, and not negotiate in a negative sense, but in a way that's kind of a win-win for everyone. But it certainly keeps you in control. So if you've ever jumped into a negotiation and felt that you were drowning because you were not anywhere near where you want to be, this book is just amazing. Every chapter has advice that's just unbelievable, mirroring, helping the other person getting to where they're going. I just can't. It's just so full. It's a very dense book, and it's amazing. I think of it as, a lot of books we read are fun. This one is just, in my mind, is just important. It's just so helpful in so many ways. So Never Split the Difference, Chris Voss. He was a FBI negotiator, and now he negotiates with businessmen. And he says somewhere in the book, he jokes around that there's more yelling when there's business people fighting as opposed to hostage negotiators. So yeah, it's an amazing book. Highly recommend it. Go get it or listen to it on Audible. Peace.
Let's give Michael Shine a big round of applause. The book of the week. We read 52 books a year. That's one book per week. And the reason we do it is because that knowledge applies to the principle. We spend one whole week applying each principle into our businesses so that the next week we apply the next one. It should not, it cannot, it will not take you more than a week to apply each one of these principles. Hence, can you recognize this is true? You apply it and then you move on to the next one. This way, at the end of a year, you have put everything in place that could double your income, double your net worth. If you miss one, results may vary. And Scam Free, understand that's how things work. That's how systems work. Awesome. Doreen, do you want to share your take on Never Split the Difference? Your biggest takeaway? I know you got a ton of notes in it.
Yes, sure. So I read this book 3 times because it has so many nuggets. It's almost like a textbook. You can take just a chapter and read it if you don't have time, like right away, to read everything. But I think you will be hooked once you begin. And one of my favorite ones is the question that sometimes we want to handle an objection. Hang on, Neil, I'm going to. Yeah. So sometimes we do have objections, which we have them pretty much daily. And if something does not work for us, you are going to pass that problem to the person you're talking to. How am I supposed to do that? So for example, you're dealing with a negotiation about the offer, and you have a price that you're not able to pay, and you can throw it back to the seller and say, hey, I appreciate your offer or your price, but how am I supposed to do that? Because we are here to cash flow. And then it starts the conversation between solving the problem together. And it worked out for me in the past. How am I supposed to do that? That's my favorite question. And there's some other amazing tips on mirroring and building rapport, on staying calm, taking the pause when you discussing something very sensitive. Take the pause, take the moment to be quiet, let the other person lead on. And it's incredible, because if we learn how to just stay quiet sometimes, and a lot more could be accomplished. Yes, I have a lot of notes here.
Let's give Doreen a big round of applause. It's true. In negotiations, silence is sometimes your biggest tip, but there is a time where silence is not helpful or embraceable. It is when it's time to make money. When you're all by yourself in your house and there's no communication going on, there's no conversation happening, that is not a time to be silent. That is a time to be aware that maybe if money isn't in the house, money isn't coming in, it's time to go out. It's time to reach out to people. Who here has ever called themselves an introvert or said, I don't really want to talk to people today? Anybody ever said that? Yes. That's fine if you're rich and happy and everything's working out well in your life. But I guarantee you, rich, happy, and everything working out won't last very long if you don't take the time to reach out to people who have money, who have problems. As a human society, as an economic society, we do require money to keep things flowing. And the only way you can get money from others is you've got to add some value. So communication, getting out, like, yes, you must have time to reflect. That's what Sunday's for, right? You can take all day by yourself, Sunday, reflect. But the other 6 days of the week, be out there connecting, be out there building relationships. We've got an event coming up. Who's heard of the 100 Millionaire Summit? Knows what I'm talking about? So I'm going to talk about the VIP tickets real quick because I think they're actually already sold out, but I'm going to do it anyway because it's just way too much fun. So VIP tickets, people don't buy them because it comes with cool swag. They don't buy them because it comes with, you know, these sweet shirts so you can dress like me every day. They don't buy them because, you know, they come with a different type of banner, you know, this white logo that they wear around their necks to let everybody know that they're a very important person. It might be because they sit in the front row, and during the $1 million session where I pull out $1 million on stage, only the VIPs will be able to come up on stage and get a personalized picture with $1 million. Hands to cam if you saw this last year. You saw everybody, they paid $100 to get up there. This year, we have over 300 people who are going to be registered in the room. And so I don't have time for everybody to come up with their $100 and tell me, hey, here's my money. Hands to cam if you know we'd be there all night. It's pretty easy to come up with $100, and it's pretty easy to manifest a lot of money when you believe it's yours, when you got a picture and you're able to promote it. And who thinks that they'd promote their business a lot better if they had $1 million, a picture with $1 million, be like, hey, I'll give you fast cash. I'm the guy who's got the cash, right? Any meme next to you at $1 million is very profitable marketing. So the VIPs do get hooked up. They just found out about that. Let's give our VIPs a big round of applause. I don't think that was something I told them until just now. And that came from hook story offer. I needed to come up with something sexy, some sort of hook to get people excited about the 100 Millionaire Summit that have never heard of it before. For each one of you, you know the story, right? You know the offer. You know what we're going to do at the event. But for people who've never heard of it, I was like, what's a cool hook? How about $1 million on stage? That seems like something unique that other people aren't doing. Has anybody ever seen somebody else bring $100 million on stage? Not 100 million. I'm just a million. Sorry, 100 million is like a fucking pallet. We're just doing $1 million on stage on a table, so you'll be able to stand behind it and rock and roll. Who already knows that they're going to the summit? Who's already bought their ticket? Awesome. Who's already booked their hotel? Who's already booked their flight? Hell yeah. Give yourselves a round of applause. The goal this year for the summit, I'm going to be talking deeply about how to bring in infinite amounts of leads, how to bring in infinite flows of deals. It's a strategy that will scare all introverts. I guarantee it. It's going to, everybody who's an introvert is going to be like, oh no, I don't want to do that. Because I'll tell you how. It scares me and Ron every single month that we do our monthly meetups. Every time we do our networking calls, every time it comes to do something, we're like, oh man, I don't know. For years, we did the South Coast Real Estate Investor Group. We didn't know the value of it until one day we were doing all of the math on all of our deals. And we realized all the capital we raised and all the properties we purchased in the last 3 years came from people we met who were strangers until they came in and saw us at the meetup. Now, it's not because I speak on stage, because Ron has been the one who collected a lot of the money. It's because I own the stage. It's because I control the stage. It's because I can, at any point when I'm looking to raise capital, walk onto the stage and say, everybody, are you having fun? Hey, by the way, I got a deal, and this is what I'm doing. Anybody interested? Hands came to recognize this is a valuable position to put yourself in. I don't have to be the speaker on stage. In fact, most of the events that are running right now, I'm not at. But when I am looking to do something, when I am looking like filling the summit, I'm able to get on those stages with all of those audience members and raise the capital, find the deal, or in my business, bring people to become millionaires. Because I am not just the controller of the stage. but I am partners with the people who control the stage. Hence, Cam, if you're starting to realize you might want a stage, you might want the control of a stage. Absolutely. You don't have to be the speaker. Your partner could be the speaker. The speaker could owe you a favor because you managed the event, and just say, hey, by the way, go talk to Thurman at the end. He's got a deal. Who's interested in something like this? Ask him if you could, have other people do the things that you're afraid to do. Absolutely. Now, most people don't know how to do meetups. Most people don't know how to set up a Facebook group, and a lot of people think it's a lot of work. Who's heard of the Recession Proof Challenge? Excellent. In that challenge, we go deep into it. In that challenge, we show the steps, but we had a challenge with the challenge. In it, we noticed people were getting overwhelmed with even these small little baby steps. And so what we decided to do is at the 100 Millionaires Summit, I'm going to map out exactly what it looks like, exactly how to do it. I got a 30-minute session that I'm going to put this together and say, this is how you build a meetup that doesn't take you very much time. And I may even create an offer where we build the meetup for you. And just so before you get excited, like understand, I'm doing it for a reason. I want to put 1,000 people at the 100 Millionaires Summit next year. So that means controlling more stages. So setting it up for you, helping you would make sense for me too, right? We get that? If I could set it up, then you can set it up. And if you could set it up, then somebody else could set one up. And the goal is 300. There are 300 cities, gateway communities across the country that have over 100,000 people populations. Those are my favorite investment cities. Who's ever read the book Emerging Markets? Dave Lindahl's book, Emerging Markets. So in that book, he talks about you don't invest in a city with less than 100,000 people because it doesn't really make sense. There's not enough inventory to justify the marketing strategies that have to go in there. Are there people that do that? Yes, of course, but they're not scaling on a big level or in a big way. 100,000 people is a minimum for investing in a city. Some investors even go as far as 150,000 as a minimum before they'll invest in a city. So our goal for the next 2 years is to build 100 locations around the country. Not 100, it's 300 locations around the country of Alchemist Real Estate Investor Associations, because the National Association, I think, has dropped the ball. They charge for every meetup. Their attendance is going down. There used to be 115 when I started. Now there's only 86, which means they're dropping in how many people are actually out there being supported. And I also know that there's a lot of little micro groups out there that don't have any organization, and they don't really have any systems for building millionaires. And that's my challenge, is if they're getting people together promising something, but they're not delivering, then that's not good either. Hence, Cam, if we're going to hold each other to a higher standard, I'm going to give you everything you need to be able to hold your events and strategies to a higher standard. So at the 100 Millionaire Summit, I'm not just teaching real estate investors. I'm teaching leaders. I'm not just teaching you how to make a couple bucks. I'm going to teach you how to dominate your market so that every deal that comes through goes through you. Every deal that occurs, you could choose to invest in it or not. Your choice. Who here knows you never turn off your marketing? I'm going to show you how to never turn off your marketing, but make your marketing done by other people. This is not for the weak-willed. This is not for, those, I know there's a lot of people out there like, people are soft these days. This is not for the soft ones. This is for people who have big hearts and want bigger wallets, who want to be able to constantly have a flow of people, build it. By the way, you also have, like I said, I mentioned big hearts. This is how you build millionaires. This is how you get to the point where millionaires are being built, just by being in your room. Who sees, just by having everybody in these rooms, people are making connections. When we do our breakout rooms, when we connect to our networking parties, even virtually, but when we do our live events, by the way, the 80-20 of the 80-20 of the 80-20 of the 80-20 of your year, that 1%, 365 days of the year, if you break it down, 80-20, 80-20, 80-20, that's 3 days. That's the 100 Millionaire Summit. Be preparing yourself. Be getting your mind to the right state to be connecting with the power players who are going to change your business. We're going to bring you deals. We're going to bring you capital. And once you get to the level I aim for you to be at, we're going to do all the work for you. I want you to be a community leader in a market. It doesn't have to be your market, by the way. Here's the deal. Duncan, who runs the Boston RIA, doesn't live in Boston. He doesn't live in North Carolina. He travels all across the world at all times. He'll call me from Puerto Rico. He'll call me from South America. He'll call me from Florida. He's all over the world, and he's running a RIA that I'm the speaker at. Hence the camera, if you recognize, he roped me in. and I love it. I'm thankful to do it. So the events, the city you're investing in may not be the city you live in, because it may not make sense to invest there, but it might make sense to own an event that's, say, in a market in the Midwest, maybe in Cleveland or Ohio. Thanks, Cam, for catching this. There are markets all across the country that have great investment opportunity, even if yours doesn't. And the only way you're going to get access to that is having boots on the ground. Who's heard boots on the ground before? Best way to build boots on the ground is to drop a group, control a group that is operating, make sure that they're building millionaires, give them a focus, make sure they're teaching people how to invest in real estate properly. Even if you don't know the fundamentals of real estate, leverage Alchemist Station to do that. I'm gonna reveal it all at the 100 Millionaire Summit. I'm gonna reveal how to do it, who can do it, and we're gonna offer over 100 this year. And then the other 200, I'm probably gonna own myself. Hence, Karen, if you know, this is a business. These things make anywhere between $100,000 to $350,000 a year. I've seen them sold for $250,000. I've seen them sold for $400,000, $600,000. And I know that there's a couple of people back in the day who sold them for $1.2 million, because their businesses, a RIA, a networking group, is a business. It cash flows from vendors. It cash flows from products sold. It cash flows from deals done. If your networking event brought you one deal, what's the average deal? $50,000? Yeah. So if it brought you one, that's 50 grand just from having the networking. Ron and I, we've made over $1.2 million from one deal from being in our networks. I don't want to sell you on being a leader. I don't want to sell you on being somebody who's running an event like this, but I want to sell you on maybe you're not an introvert for one day out of the other 30 days of the week, of the month. Maybe just for one day out of the month, you just show up to an event. Instead of showing up to somebody else's event, you show up to your event. And you walk in like you own the place, because you do. And you smile and you greet everybody, make sure they're learning something, because they are. Because you set it up in a good way. And scam if you think this is a good commitment. This is the sort of thing that somebody should do, could do. And then if you're doing it with me, I'll make sure you get it right. Awesome. I want to open up to questions. Questions on this principle of accepting change and then converting change into opportunity, how to take advantage of challenging times. Let's open up to questions. First, unmute their mic gets to go. And let me see another thing around opening your mic. Successful people take action. Successful people ask questions. Successful people share their wins. And the more likely you are to be seen, the more you're seen in this community, the more people stand out, the more likely you are to receive deals and capital and partnerships. So there you go, Chong. Smart man. Let's give him a big round of applause.
Hi guys.
Stand out, brother.
Yep. So I just want to thank you personally. You know, not only you are a good mentor here, but you took time to answer my questions about that deal that I'm working on. And that means a lot, because oftentimes when you join an organization, the leader's multiple layers up and they don't make time or have time for you. So first of all, thank you.
Chong, don't let me get twisted. I am multiple layers up. but these questions, you're in a very important program. You're in the Recession Proof Challenge, man. So I prioritize you guys, and I prioritize everybody in the mentorship in the Recession Proof Challenge. So your question is important, because I know you're a leader, man. I know what you're doing.
Thank you. I was gonna touch on the book. You know, I did that book a couple years ago, and what got me was, like, when I was in a leadership position, this is a huge Jedi mind trick, because what he just did was, if you're thinking about it from his examples of a hostile situation, you just enabled the guy that you're trying to stop from killing all his people to help you solution the problem. And it just gave him the higher ground, or you make him think that way. And all of a sudden he's like, crap, now he just revealed all his cards. And
Isn't that powerful?
It's crazy, because in tactical military you're taught to not reveal, but here he just let that guy think that girl think that they have the upper hand. But it allows them to become part of the solution, and you can now level the playing field, and now you have a way forward.
100%. Let's give Chong a big round of applause. That's such a great share. It's such a great tip. And it is true that when we're in a situation, we have no sides. We are on the same side, right? When we're talking to a motivated seller or another investor or an agent, or in deep negotiations, and they're, seems like they're trying to get the price high and we're trying to get the price low. Like, really, what we're both trying to do is get that thing sold. At all times, we want the exchange to occur in a great situation. And it's just, sometimes you got to reveal some cards, say, hey, look, this is really what I'm trying to do here. Can you work with me? Because if we can work together, like, how can we solve this? It's going to create a lot more opportunities. Go ahead, Mike. I saw your hand up, and then Natalie right after him.
So it's funny how this came up, but I was looking at TikTok this morning, and 10X Grant Cardone does exactly what we were talking about. So after copy this and just watch it. It's like 15-20 seconds of Grant just taking something that seems like a negative and turning it to his advantage, and just, it's typical Grant Cardone. It's so awesome. So highly recommend it. And it's right on point with what we're doing today. So yeah.
Give Mike Shine a round of applause. For everybody who doesn't know, there is a link now in the chat for everybody who's on Facebook. I apologize. We'll put the link on Alchemist Nation. But if you want the link, go to Alchemist Nation, because we can't put links on Facebook. Otherwise, it kills my post. So thank you for not putting links there. Natalie, you're up.
Hey, I just wanted to share a win and just to follow up. When Dr. Terry was on here today, I've hired him as my coach. And so one of the things that we talked about on our last call was just, work on your one-liner and actually going out and speaking to people. One of the troubles that I've had, again, I live in this tiny town of like 700 people. Social media is not the way to go, is what I've learned. Like I get zero, I get nothing from that. And so just trying to find out like what will work here has been my struggle. And so I stumbled on it this past week, and it blows my mind and it makes me laugh. But yard sales is the way to go here. And so I've really, started to shop yard sales. I'm getting.
Oh, you just got muted, Natalie.
There we go. But yeah, I'm getting what I want there too. But, just being more bold about starting conversations and talking about what I do. And it's gotten a way better response than social media has ever gotten me. And so just being a bit more bold and working on the one-liner and just really honing it down. And one thing that Dr. Terry was talking about was like asking for feedback about it. And so just being more comfortable with that. And so I'm just really thankful for, again, community, like what you were talking about today. It's so important. The people that are around you make a huge difference in how your life goes. And so I'm just thankful for you guys.
Let's give Natalie a big round of applause. Hey, she needed a national community because she's only got 700 people in her city. You are crushing it, Natalie. Awesome job. You're like Gary Vee out there with the garage sales. You get that little hustle going.
Yeah.
Awesome. Josh Pimentel, you're up.
Hey, G, how's it going? Good morning, guys. When it comes to accepting change, for stubborn individuals, I'm sure you've come across quite a few. What points would you give to enabling a stubborn individual to finally accept change?
Yeah, so if somebody's being stubborn, it's because something in the past has told them that's a good play. So you want to acknowledge that and say, yeah, I'm totally down with being set on this. That makes a lot of sense in most situations. In this particular situation, I wonder if it's a little different. And if it were different, what differences might be there? And if we were to just step away from how set we are on our normal strategy, what might it look like if we did this? Now, it's very important to have their goals when having this conversation, like getting, where we're going is really kind of a key, because a lot of times people have their walls up, like for, we'll say success in real estate, for example. A lot of times people are like, I don't want a cold call. And it's like, dude, like the person's on the other phone. They're on the other line. You kind of have to get past that barrier of cold calling. So I understand you're stubborn on like, I don't want to do it, but let's just pretend you did and it got you a deal. Would that be worth it? And that kind of knowing where their goal is, and then the let's just pretend we were doing it this way, could it possibly be more effective? Sometimes telling stories of somebody else who's been more effective in it first before doing that will kind of get their mind thinking, yeah, that worked for that other person. Hey, this person I bought a house from a little while back, and then he explained the same exact scenario they were in. They didn't believe that it would make sense because they were, really sticking to their guns because that had worked for them in the past. And then when they started doing some math, they did this, they talked to their family, and then they had that conversation and this worked. Then they decide, oh my God, like this is the only way I could actually do this transaction. You know what? I'm usually very stubborn with this, but I think that I'm going to have to switch my opinion. I know you and I already talked about like how that was a good idea, but what do you think now? Right? Like
Okay.
they will shift it for you if you can get a story that relates to where they're actually at and have their goal in line.
All right. No, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for breaking it down. I know there's other things out there, but even working with you and just learning from you has definitely taught me a lot, especially, Mike Shine dropping that book knowledge many years ago as well, too. So I appreciate you guys. Thanks.
And for everybody who doesn't know, Josh's been with us since East Main Street in Fall River. Like he used to drive all the way down from Boston, an hour drive down to come sit with us every single Saturday for the wholesaling boot camp, go through the process, like dialing calls. In fact, Josh is still a partner with us now. And we were talking on the phone yesterday about 2 negotiations. Like we got another deal that we're negotiating today. So you never know. That's, again, power of a network, running events, bringing people together, teaching, training. And yeah, Josh, there's a lot of ways to move a stubborn person. But the easiest thing to keep in mind is just have their best intentions at heart. If you have their best intentions at heart, like it will, at some point, you'll be able to move them to something that makes sense for them. And if it doesn't, then their stubbornness is working for them. But a lot of times it doesn't. Durbin, go ahead, brother.
Yeah, so you mentioned the point earlier of like building a foundation. So I was kind of curious on like what are some guiding principles you might have for doing that? And like I'll use an example, like let's say I'm building my own website, or even with you have your vision of, building 100 millionaires that build 100 millionaires. So like what are you doing to, think like with that foundation, what are you keeping in mind is like guiding principles?
Awesome. So any business, one, it's the 52 wealth principles, right? Like these are the foundation of all business. So going back and looking at all of them and saying, okay, like this, I got to make sure all these are in my business. If they're not, to the degree you don't have those principles in place, something will break, something won't work out, something won't cash flow, or an opportunity to be missed. So those are the key principles to all business. But as far as like building a website, you've got to know your mission, like what the sole purpose of what you're doing is. And then you've got to understand your avatar. They understand like the people you're working with, what do they need? What are their problems? What are their challenges? And then like we were talking about earlier on the call, hook, story, offer, right? What is the hook that you're bringing them in with? What is the story that makes them feel comfortable with your product, with your service? And then what is the offer you're giving them? How does what you're giving them solve the problem that they have? And if you can follow that in your website, you're going to be okay. Another component is DISC, DISC. When you're reading a website, you're serving the D and the I first. So you must have bullet points and something catchy and fun at the top, like a video. And then you can go into the S, which is community, family, stability. So social proof, other people have worked with me, testimonials. Then you can shift down to the C. They want to know technically, how does this thing work? And that's why the bottom of landing pages is a lot of words. And the top tends to be bullet points in images or video. And then the center is testimonials. So if you could follow that kind of flow, you should do very well on your landing page.
Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. Let's give Durbin a round of applause. Hey, man, I'm not just real estate. I got digital experience too. Let's go. Lee, you're up.
Morning, everyone. So I am so excited to share a win this week because I finally did my first co-wholesaling with a property in South Carolina. And if it wasn't for the Alchemist community where I met the couple that I'm working with, I would have never had the guts to do it. So I want to thank you guys. And I can't say enough about this group. You're just an awesome group of people, community. I love yous all.
Hell yeah. Let's give Lee, Blake, and Jasmine a big round of applause. Doing a deal together, connecting the community, checking things out. We've got a lot of opportunity coming up this year. And as people are figuring out new strategies, co-wholesaling, and like that strategy is great, right? They're just selling to an existing buyer. The buyer's just buying everything up. So all they have to do is put it under agreement, do quick turns, and then move those properties in. There's a lot of opportunity in the market right now for anybody who can touch base with an iBuyer. So awesome job, Lee. Andrea, you're up. And do I pronounce your name right? Because I feel like Andrea, like
It's actually Andre. But I
Andre.
respond to Andre just fine.
Well, it's Andre from now on. Let's give her a round of applause for putting up with me misspelling things. I appreciate you mispronouncing. Go ahead, Andre.
I want to know some strategies for screening potential investors, because I was almost signing some paperwork with one that I found out from another member here was false. And I almost got taken down the garden path that way.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we're raising capital from investors, something my mentor told me a long time ago, he said, man, like when you're raising capital, be careful of their history. Make sure that they have a good reputation. Like if somebody is going through a court battle, you don't want to get your name dragged through the mud because, this person's got legal issues. So be careful with who you're taking money from. Well, this is warning. And there are steps that we follow. The first is, have they lent before? If they haven't, that's okay. But I do want to know what their experience with lending is. The second is, are they accredited? If they're not an accredited investor, I have a hard time raising capital or doing deals with them unless I have a deep relationship and I've known them for a long period of time. I'll put them in that family friend area. But family friend to me is not like I met you on the street or I met you on one of these Zoom calls. It's like you got to be somebody I've worked with in the past on some level, some capacity. If you're just meeting people online, you've really got to get some information from them, right? Like Lee did this deal. So Blake and Jasmine, they reached out to me and check, verify, hey, is Lee legitimate? What does she do? And I've known Lee for a long time, so I'm able to actually give that reference. Not that I could do that for everybody in the community, but some people who have been through our programs, I've been through other programs with them, it makes it a lot easier. So Andrew, having a conversation with them, huge. Meet up with them. Oh, you know what? Mike's got his hand up. He runs partnerships. So Mike's got a good suggestion on this too.
It just as part of what you do, obviously check on Google, talk to people, but one of the biggest things is do not ignore red flags. People will show you right away who they are some way or another. But a lot of times we get stuck in that shiny object syndrome. We're like, oh my God, this deal is so great and I got to do it. I mean, it's okay. I know he's only had 3 bankruptcies and he did have that felony that I saw, but it's such a good deal that I'm just going to go for it. So if you write down, like if people make a comment that you think is a little suspect, that's definitely a sign to at least look a little bit further and speak to more people. But usually people will show you who they are. It's yeah, they'll show you right away. So that's my tip on that one. Don't ignore the red flags.
Absolutely. And listen to what they're saying. If somebody has ever cheated on a spouse, if they've stolen a candy bar from a restaurant, from a store, if they, cheat on their taxes, like these are concerns, like things that you got to be like, okay, like maybe this person's not all about following the rules. If they don't have a good credit score, like one of the challenges with borrowing money from people is they need the money back. It's annoying, right? If I'm slinging a deal, I want that money for the time we agreed upon. And I love to pay it back early because it costs me money not to. But at the same time, if I need it for the full extent of that deal, like I don't want to have to go raise capital in between again, right? And this has been an experience we've had where we borrow money from somebody, they get cold feet 15 days into it. It's like, dude, your money hasn't even been put into the deal yet, so you're lucky. But if the money is in a deal, now I've got to go raise capital against something that you've got a second position on. Like it's a lot of work. Go ahead, Mike.
And the other thing that you'll catch people doing is they'll say something negative, but then they'll justify why they did that. And they'll say it was the other person's fault or that type of thing. Those are red flags right there. Obviously, there's two sides to every story, but if you hear someone say, "Oh, I had to do this," or "I had to take that money," or it was all because of this, that, and the other, and then they explain it away, well, that justification might be a reason to run. There's plenty of people out there to partner with.
Yeah. And I just got out of a lawsuit. I had to sue my partner because they took advantage of me. All right, like maybe you're not the partner I'm looking to line up with. And Cam for catching this. Nothing wrong with those people, just I got easier money to get at. There's people who, don't sue people, who work things out. Those are the types of deals I want you doing. Stay focused on quality over quantity. Also, what Mike said is partnerships, right? It really is all about valuing partners. When you're borrowing money from people, it is partnerships. And his book is coming out, and we're pushing really close to the summit. So I'm thinking we should be able to have his copies available by the summit. We're probably doing our big release party at the summit. So if you haven't already heard about Mike Shine and his principles for partnering, we're going to be having him on stage at the 100 Millionaires Summit. He's going to be sharing his principles on how to identify a partner, how to know if they're the right person, how to qualify, how to structure those deals on some basic level. And he's going to be offering his partnership book. Hence, if it's going to be a party on Saturday night. We're going to be doing a book launch for our good friend Mike Shine. This book's been over a year in the making. So this has been just, the community's been needing it for a long time. He did his course, his partnership course on Alchemist Nation. So it's already out. And now the book launch comes with the 100 Millionaire Summit this year with his talk. Hence, Mike Shine's going to bring the heat. You better, because he's coming from Roatan. He's flying all the way in for us. Let's give Mike a big round of applause. Great questions today. If you have other questions and you want to connect, Alchemist Nation is the place to go. Drop your questions right in the forums. This process of building millionaires is not always going to be easy to get from the next stage to the next stage. But as you're successing and leveling up, you want to be bringing people along with you. Don't get there alone. Otherwise, it can be lonely. The statement is it's lonely at the top is a false statement. It can be lonely at the top if you don't bring people with you. So our goal is, because there's plenty of room at the top for everybody, our goal is to make sure that you're learning, building, and sharing that knowledge, sharing that information with others as you continue. So reuse Alchemist Nation as a resource, share it with others. And as we get closer and closer to the summit, start building up who you are, what you're looking for, and who you're looking to connect with, so that when we're there, we're able to make those really great, powerful connections. Remember, there's plenty of room at the top. I will see you at the summit. Cheers to your success. When you have a choice, always work with the best. I'll see you next week.